Hello everyone and welcome to today's Chrissy B Show. And for those of you who don't know, this is the UK's only TV programme that's dedicated to your mental health and well-being. The focus of today's episode started as a challenge between two friends in Melbourne. Could they find 30 men willing to grow a very outdated moustache for charity? Yes, they could, and by the following year, they had 480 men doing the same. By 2006, the trend spread to New Zealand, and in 2007, the phenomenon reached our shores here in the UK. 9 years on, and it's going from strength to strength, having raised over £443 million since its inception, with over 5 million people worldwide growing a furry upper lip to help stop men from dying too young. Yes, of course, it is Movember, which aims to change the face of men's health and ultimately reduce the number of preventable deaths. On the show today, we have Dr Rob Hicks, who'll be telling us why it's so important we raise awareness for Movember. Then later on, I'll be talking to Adam Shaw, whose lifelong battles with OCD, anxiety, panic attacks and depression ultimately brought him to a railway bridge and the brink of suicide. We'll be hearing how he overcame all of this and established the Shaw Mind Foundation, a charity for those with mental health issues. We'll also be hearing from Audrey Tang, and then later on, we'll be answering all your medical questions in our Doctor's Answers. But before all of that, let's have a look and see how you guys are celebrating. Movember UK lists the rules to Movember, stating each Mobro must begin November with a clean-shaven face, grow and groom a moustache for the entire month, don't fake it, talk about it, and most importantly, each Mobro must conduct himself like a true gentleman. Neil says there is a new sheriff in town. Mitch says I'm supporting a seriously good moustache to show why I'm growing a mo this Movember. Sign up now. Leanne O'Connor is being a bit adventurous, travelling to Rome with no money for charity. All donations go to the Movember Foundation. Javier says donate #Movember to help change the face of men's health. And Jack says you don't have to be a man to care about men's health. Join the movement this Movember. Now, to get a bit more of an idea of why Movember is so important, let's talk to Dr Rob Hicks. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Lovely to be back, as always.
So Movember.
Very special month, isn't it?
Tell us about why it's so important from a medical viewpoint.
Well, from a medical point of view, I mean, the whole concept of Movember is just simply to raise awareness of the health issues, the major ones that affect us men. So we're thinking about prostate cancer, for example, and testicular cancer. You know, and when you think about prostate cancer being the commonest male cancer, you know, and there's over 47,000 new cases of prostate cancer in the UK every year.
Wow.
Then you can see how significant it is, and a man's lifetime risk of developing prostate cancer is 1 in 8. So it is, you know, it's important to be aware of that. Testicular cancer, not so common. You know, about just over 2,000 men per year who are diagnosed with it. Lifetime risk is around about 1 in 200. However, testicular cancer is one of the most curable cancers there is. So you know, people sometimes say, you know, if you're going to get cancer, that's one of the ones to get, because, you know, caught early, it's entirely curable. So what is it about Movember that's so important, apart from raising awareness? Because you can raise awareness throughout the year. Well, it's because it's fun, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, the whole concept of, you know, growing some kind of moustache, it's not making light of the health issues, but actually men respond much better to health if it's done in a sort of humorous way. It breaks the ice, it lowers those barriers, and this is a great way of not just raising awareness, obviously, but actually giving the men the confidence and the encouragement to ask. You know, not necessarily because they've got a problem, but actually to say, well, what should I be looking out for? What are the things I can be doing to reduce my risk of these major health issues? obviously
important.
to ask if you have got any symptom that you don't know what's being, the cause is, because you don't want to sit on these problems. The longer you wait, the worse they're likely to get, and certainly from a mental health point of view, the more worry they cause. And to be fair, the vast majority of problems health-wise that affect men are actually minor, and it's the men ignoring them that makes the problem so much more difficult.
So obviously it also encourages men to actually go to their GP if they are having any kind of symptoms and things like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Men don't like going to the doctor.
No, but they are getting better.
Yes.
And we are getting better at
That's because of this show.
Absolutely, they got the permission.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, Rob, you're not going to leave us yet, are you? Because towards the end of the programme, actually, we're going to be answering all your medical questions. So if you do have a question for Rob, it doesn't have to be just male-related things, because we're going to be covering all sorts of medical issues, Rob. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. So don't go away, Rob, OK?
I'm staying right.
All right, we're going to have some viewer questions for you. All right, guys, so now it's time to catch the news with Pax Brown and see what he's been up to.
Thank you, Chrissy. Lovely being here as always. Now, it was Ricky Gervais who reminded us last year on Women's Day, do not despair, meninists. International Men's Day is a thing, and it's celebrated on the 19th of November. Now, a somewhat controversial event, in fact, so controversial that last year the University of York decided to cancel International Men's Day event last minute. The campaigners actually believed that the university's reputation would have been tainted if they had associated themselves with such an event. They believe that raising awareness on women's issues can actually provoke more inequality than actually combating it. Cancelling the event at the University of York caused great outrage amongst the event supporters. In fact, they believe that by cancelling the event, they were undermining men's rights. However controversial this event may be, it's actually gained a lot of attention in the last few years, so much so that last year, Parliament actually debated International Men's Day for the first time. So why do we celebrate International Men's Day? Let's not forget that men face very different issues in life than women. And obviously, it's just a way to also promote good, positive male role models, which unfortunately is not so common these days. Thank you. Back to you, Chrissy.
So thank you very much to Pax Brown. So now it's time to hear from our resident psychologist, Dr Audrey Tang, about why Movember is so important.
Hi Chrissy, thank you so much for having me. I love Movember. It's one of those times I get to see so many of my friends sport the strangest moustaches you'll ever see. You get to see celebrities doing it, you get to look at social media platforms where groups and communities are doing it, and it's so much fun. One of the best benefits is, of course, the laughter that's generated. If you can raise a smile, if you can laugh, that releases those happy hormones. It makes us feel better, it lowers our blood pressure. It just makes us see things in a slightly more positive way. The other very important thing about Movember, of course, is it does create a community. If you're doing it, your friends are doing it, celebrities are doing it, you feel part of something. And if that part is something for a really good cause as well, it's even better. Research has shown that feeling part of a community, having a social support network, can lessen feelings of stress. And therefore, if you are part of something, even if you are going through some horrible things, you may have prostate cancer, you may be supporting someone with prostate cancer, but feeling part of something where other people care and they're willing to participate, they're wanting to find out more, they're wanting to be there for you, that's one of the positives that can come out of events such as Movember, such as the Ice Bucket Challenge, the Race for Life, and all of these wonderful causes. Movember and causes like it, such as the Ice Bucket Challenge, have become very popular because they can actually take the internet by storm. And we think nothing now of the selfie culture. We take selfies and then we post them on our social media platforms. And so much nicer if we can be doing so and contributing to a cause. Researchers also looked at causes such as Movember, and they found that it is a much more indirect way of asking for donations, which encourages participation, and the donation is seen as a secondary thing. However, because people are choosing to participate in the event, such as growing the moustache or tipping the ice bucket of water over your head, people then learn about that particular cause and then feel that they want to donate to it. So it's, as I say, a little bit softer, a little bit more indirect, but it's still very positive because people are still curious and wanting to find out more. What researchers also found is that when you use that hashtag, such as hashtag Movember, on one of your social media posts, other people, maybe researchers in prostate cancer, people who are developing new drugs to help prostate cancer, they will also use that particular hashtag and join it in under that same bracket, which means that if somebody isn't sure what Movember's about and they look a little bit deeper into it, not only do they find all the information about where Movember started and about prostate cancer, but they find all of that new research along with it. So it's another way of becoming a little bit more known by using these social media platforms. The other thing is, we do see celebrity endorsements of such events, and it's lovely to see that, and it's lovely to feel part of that same community. As I said earlier, that feeling community makes us feel like we belong, and as humans we do have that need to belong. So as well as feeling you're part of something, it can also raise your awareness, and as far as I'm concerned, raising awareness is very, very important. I don't believe it's just men who are reluctant to check for lumps and bumps or anything strange in their bodies. I think we all are to some extent, purely because we actually fear the worst. If we find something, then we do think something very serious could be wrong. And sadly, this makes us prefer to look it up on the internet or try and ask other people about it rather than going to our GP, just because we don't want to be told that something horrible could be happening. Of course, with that, it's really important to have professional help, because as soon as you get professional help, the wheels can be set in motion to get rid of it and deal with it by people who know exactly what they're doing. And often the longer we delay seeking professional help, the worse, especially if it is something like cancer, the worse it can get. You do not want it to be progressing to later stages. We do, as humans, have a bit of a tendency to bury our heads in the sand, metaphorically. If anything we fear, we don't really want to face, because once we have to see it and it's there in black and white, it becomes very real. And it means everything that we've learnt and everything we've been aware of beforehand, we suddenly have to change. The wonderful thing, of course, though, about campaigns such as Movember or any of the Race for Lives, any of those campaigns, is that there is so much support out there. There are people who are trained to help you, but there are people who just want to help in any case. So one thing is, please do check, because if you check early and you catch something early, you're able to deal with it better. The other reason may well be that we don't actually know what to look for. So we might feel something that seems a little bit strange, but we don't actually want to bother our GP about it. If you do find a lump, please do go and seek professional advice. And now there's so many leaflets and so many downloads. The NHS has done a wonderful job about telling us what symptoms we should actually be looking for. So do read that information and do keep regularly checking.
Thank you very much to Audrey. Well, after the break, I'll be talking to Adam Shaw about how he overcame his mental health issues to set up a charity and co-write a self-help book. Welcome back, everyone, to the Chrissy B Show. So I'm now joined by Adam Shaw, founder of mental health charity the Shaw Mind Foundation and author of Pulling the Trigger. Hello, Adam.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Lovely to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Now, you are, you're looking great and you have a smile on your face, but there was a time when you were actually, well, you almost committed suicide, right?
Oh, yeah.
But tell us, when did the mental health issues start in your life?
They're my earliest memory. That's it really, from age 5. Of course, at the time, I didn't know I had mental health issues. I knew there wasn't something quite right. But at that time in school, there's no education on mental health, so I just figured there was something quite not right going on in my head.
Were you feeling low? Like...
I was having intrusive thoughts that I wanted to get rid of and I wanted to push out of the way.
Yeah.
It started with attachment issues with my mum. She dropped me off at school, and then I felt I had a sense of responsibility, an obligation to protect her. So I started to invent rituals so she wouldn't be killed on her way home. And these are rituals which we now know are compulsions.
Yeah.
It was bizarre, really. It started with cloud formations, and that's the thing with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. It attaches its things to various things.
Yeah.
And the compulsion really is if I saw a cloud in the sky, I wasn't able to see that cloud on my own. I had to show somebody else, because if I was the only person to see that cloud, then my mum would be killed on the way home. But and that sounds kind of a little bit quirky, and it does, but it grew into something far more sinister as I got older. I still didn't know I was had a severe mental health problem, which I now know I did. But it grew into something that kind of, there was nowhere for me to go in the end, and I nearly took my own life. And the thoughts, were around harming people, young people, vulnerable people.
And obviously, when you have thoughts like that, the last thing you want to do is tell someone, because you feel really evil. And no, it's not your thoughts. It seems like it's your thoughts, but it's like there's kind of like another something else that's at work in a sense. And you naturally, it's like, oh my, how can I ever tell anyone what I'm going through? How can I tell anyone about these thoughts? Because it's just so horrible, and that's how the person stays trapped.
That's absolutely what it is. And research tells us, especially with OCD and certain anxieties, that people keep this to themselves for so long, and they usually keep it to the point where there's nowhere to go, and they get into a desperate state like I did. It's really important to stipulate that people with OCD and the thoughts that I had around harming people and vulnerable people, we're never actually going to carry out these thoughts.
Yeah.
They're just so repugnant to us. It's actually a worry problem. It's not that we're going to carry them out. We worry that we're going to do these things because they're so awful to us. And
how did you try to deal with that at the time?
When I was young, it's because it was very much an anxiety-based illness, and anything that causes us fear, anything that causes us anxiety, it's natural for us to try and figure a way to get out of it. We're human. If something scares us, we want to try and find a way to resolve it, which is a big mistake with anxiety and OCD, as I found out in the end, because trying to figure it out, trying to rationalise with these thoughts, all that does is it adds fuel to the anxiety. It creates fear, and fear is fuel for anxiety, and it makes it go round and round and round again. But of course, back then when I was young, I had to find ways to make myself feel better in my head. Am I a bad person for having these thoughts? Am I going to kill somebody? Am I going to strangle someone? In my teenage years, it got to the point where I purchased a pair of handcuffs just to keep in my pocket. That was my compulsion, because I felt if I ever had an urge to kill someone or strangle someone, like a disabled person or somebody vulnerable, the worst kind of murder that could be, I'd just go into my pocket to feel my handcuffs and think, I can put my handcuffs on and then I won't strangle that person.
Oh, wow.
But it went as far as, I was even considering getting my arms amputated. I looked it up. How do you do it so I wouldn't hurt anyone?
That must have been, I think the word that's coming to my mind is anguish.
It was. I came from a very loving family, and one would, I was fortunate that I came from a big family and a loving family. But it was mental torture. Looking back now, how I got through it, I don't know how I did, but I was always trying to find ways, rituals, to get away from it, to make myself feel better. And there wasn't really too many great times growing up. It was always I've always had this burden of carrying the anxiety, the OCD on my shoulders. Was it constant,
or did you ever get sort of breaks where you kind of felt normal and?
Yeah, I got breaks. People with OCD and anxiety, we get those breaks. But even when you have those breaks, you always have that fear in the back of your mind that it's going to come back. So you're always carrying that weight on your shoulder all the time. So even when I wasn't having the obsessive days, even when I wasn't really having the anxious days, I would still go to bed drained. I would still go to bed upset. And of course, when you have OCD to that limit like I did, and anxiety, and as a lot of people do, it's you know that's where you get comorbid depression as a consequence of it, and that's so it becomes a really vicious circle. And so, you know, my memories growing up from teenage and into my 20s, really, we're just constantly battling my mental health problems. It made me make various decisions in my life. Everything that I did in my life was around my mental health problems. Well, if I go there, will it trigger this? If I do that, will it trigger this? If I go out with my friends and I see a vulnerable person, will my OCD come on, or will these thoughts come on where I'm going to kill someone? So it kind of restricted what I did. It owned me.
It traps you, really.
It really
well,
does,
yeah.
And of course, what I didn't know at the time, what I was doing wrong. Of course, by allowing it to do that and not facing the fear, by fighting it instead of having the courage to face my mental health problems, I was actually putting these issues on a pedestal. I was giving the mental health problems more power than they deserve. And of course, I thought they were such awful thoughts that I didn't want to discuss them with my parents. I didn't want to discuss them, you know, with my wife and all my friends, because, you know, what would one person say if I said I have thoughts where I think I'm going to kill people? You know, you would naturally assume that they're going to throw you in prison or you're going to be carted away. So, of course, with OCD and anything like that, we keep it to ourselves. And actually, that's the worst thing that we can do.
I actually love that you're being so open about the kind of thoughts you were having, because people just don't talk about these things. And I think you're so brave to actually come on TV and say these things, because I know that there are people watching, and there's so many people all over the world, actually, that have these kind of thoughts. And they get so depressed because they feel that they can't talk to anyone, and they end it all, as you almost did as well. Sure. So I think it's amazing that you're actually talking about these things, Adam.
The frustrating thing for me is I know from being very fortunate to bring a leading psychologist into my life, Dr Lauren Callahan, who we kind of co-wrote the book, and also she co-founded a charity with me, the Shaw Mind Foundation. A lot of these mental health issues, if people are educated, if we give the right kind of education in school to parents, even to general practitioners, to doctors and everything, if we give them the right kind of education on how to deal with people with mental health problems, or even the people who've got mental health problems, give them the education so they can understand what's wrong with them and then how to deal with it.
Tell us about the time also when you actually almost ended it, and what stopped you, would you say? Because there was a point where you went to a bridge.
The few days before I met Lauren, how Lauren came into my life, I'm fairly fortunate because I've been successful in business, and we were spending some time with our family in the holiday home in Lanzarote. We were actually living out there for a while, actually. And the thoughts, the OCD, I was in a really bad state with my mental health, and my physical fitness. I'd put on a lot of weight and everything, which doesn't help with mental health problems. And it was my daughter's birthday, and we were in Lanzarote, and we drove through this tunnel, and over the bridge there was a little Spanish lady walking across, and I had this thought that came into my head that I was going to strangle her. And I visualised it, that I was going to strangle this poor, vulnerable little old lady, and no one could do anything about it. And it was like ice through my veins, and that the OCD came crashing into my world. I tried to remember all the compulsions. That how do I get rid of this thought? How do I make myself better? You know, and with my kids, I've got to give them time. And there was nowhere to go, and it was mental torture. And I got back home that evening with my wife. I'd managed to kind of sit on my emotions while the kids were just at the beach and everything, and the kids went to bed, and I just kind of broke into tears. And I said, I need to go home. I said, I'm really, really poorly again. And the next day I got a flight back to the UK, and I went to the hospital, and they couldn't really, you know, no one came, you know, and that's the frustrating thing. Mental health problems are just as significant as physical problems. We have hospitals for physical problems, but we don't have anywhere to go immediately for mental health care. So I came away from the hospital and I felt so hopeless, and I just thought, you know, I'm going to end it all. If my family, if my parents, if my kids and my wife knew what I was going through, if they knew the torture I was going through, then they'd let me go, they'd be all right with it. I tried to, that's how I rationalised it to myself, because sometimes it's portrayed in the media and in society that people who commit suicide, they're weak, they're anything but weak, because they've survived every day. They've just got to the point where they've had enough. And it's a little bit like you know, when someone has a terminal illness, it's very sad that they pass away, but sometimes there's a little bit of relief that they're not in that pain anymore. I thought that the same for me. I was in this pain and I didn't want to go for it anymore, and I thought I was wanting my family to have, you know, to understand that it'd be a relief for me. I got onto the bridge. I went down that evening. It was a bridge local to where I was living, where my parents were living, and my sister. And I stood on the bridge. I still felt I was being very rational. I didn't think, you know, I'm doing this like a knee-jerk. It was very, I thought it out. I'd planned my stay. I'd left a note where my will was. And I got up on the bridge. I even thought about the train driver. I thought, well, I don't want to jump in front of the train driver because I'm going to ruin their life. You know, so my kind of rationale behind that was to jump onto the second as it went through. It sounds awful, but these were the thoughts that I was having. But, you know, I swung onto the bridge and I stood on the bridge, and then I sat down on the bridge. And for the first time in my life, because I've had severe mental health problems all my life, the weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I knew it's a very sad situation, but I knew it couldn't hurt me anymore. And it felt so relaxing. I'd never had that sense of relaxation before. A sad situation, I know, because I'm just about to end it. And it was in that moment I thought to myself, Adam, if you can feel like this now, if you can have this sense of relaxation, you've just proved to yourself that you can. There must be a way you can do it in the real world.
Exactly.
And it came, you know, and
that's what stopped you.
And that's what stopped me. I swung my legs back over the bridge. I was mad with myself for not doing it, because I thought I should have gone through with it. I was crying, I was upset. I know, yeah, you shouldn't, but that was what I was thinking. And why have you chickened out and everything? But there was part of me that said, no, Adam, you had hope there. You had 5 minutes of peace there. There must be peace in this real world. And that's how, you know, and the next day, that's how I said, right, I need to do something about this. If I'm going to get myself better, it's going to be down to me, nobody else. And
we're going to go to a quick break, Adam,
of course.
and I'm going to bring you back, and you're going to tell us also about the charity that you set up.
Great.
Quickly, okay? So, guys, join us after this. Welcome back to our program, everybody, and this program is actually in support of Movember, and we have been hearing Adam Shaw's incredible story. Actually, he was just telling us before the break about going to a bridge and actually almost taking his own life when he felt, oddly, a peace for a few minutes, and then he actually realised, well, hang on, if I'm feeling this right now, then this actually could be my reality in my day-to-day living. And that's what actually stopped you from taking your life, Adam. And but then you went on, you met someone, a psychologist, that helped you to see things in a different way. You co-wrote the book with her, and you also set up a charity. So your book is called Pulling the Trigger, but tell us how that links to the charity and what you're doing.
Okay,
now.
well, as I said, I was being fairly fortunate in business, and after I got better from meeting Lauren, I actually sold my legal services company, and I was kind of thinking what would the next stage of my life was. And I'm not really spiritual. I would say I'm not even that religious, but I felt like I had a calling. I felt I had to do something around mental health, and I couldn't recover in silence. Because I'd recovered, I needed to show people that there was a way. And my way of doing that was I wanted to form a global charity that could help people, certainly people with mental health issues. Because I'm fortunate, I had resource and I know what I had to go through to try and get that support. I got one of the world leading psychologists to help me, but I had to dig and find, and it came at a cost as well. It was expensive. So what do we do, and how do we help people, you know, in the everyday world? And that's what my charity, the Sure Mind Foundation, is set up to do. Not just in the UK, but around the world. We sort of support people with mental health problems in deprived areas of the country, deprived areas of the world, help people get back into work who've had mental health problems, those sorts of things. What I wanted to do is make sure that the charity could kind of wipe its own face, that we wouldn't be solely reliant on donations from the good public. So the way that we did that was we came up with a publishing company that was a very philanthropic publishing business, and the proceeds from the books that we create go into the charity. But the publishing business is just for mental health. And they follow a similar format to myself and Dr. Lauren's book, which is OCD, anxiety, panic attacks and related depression. It's the definitive survival and recovery approach. And every book that we do has a psychologist and a person who's suffered and gone through that particular mental illness. And it really works for me. We did a lot of research on that. When I was poorly, I was craving validation from hearing about somebody's story. so I could see, give me some kind of hope, because hope's really important for mental health sufferers. But equally, I wanted the backup of a psychologist giving running commentary on what was going wrong, what they were doing right, and what needed to be done. And there was nothing like that. So I gifted some funds to the charity, and we invested in coming up with a innovative recovery book that could help people. And so we hope, or we believe, that people buying these books will very much be able to help themselves. They're great self-help books, but more importantly, or just as importantly, the proceeds go back into charity. So not only are you helping yourself, you're helping other people as well.
Yeah.
And that's the idea behind the charity and the publishing business. So,
brilliant. So Adam, just some final words for anyone watching now that is feeling like you were feeling that night when you were going to end it all. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say I'm a perfect example. There is hope. There's always hope, and suicide is it's a permanent answer to actually a temporary problem, and it really is temporary. Yeah. And the one thing that I would urge anybody to do, if they're in that position, is first and foremost is talk to somebody about it. That sounds very basic and very easy for me to say, but actually talking about it is a perfect platform for recovery. It gets it off your chest. And whilst you may not think, that your best friend or your mum or anyone, it doesn't have to be a specialist, but whilst you may think your best friend or your mum might not understand, actually have faith. They will understand more than you think. Put your faith in that and start the conversation.
True. Adam, it's been so lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much for being so honest and open, and I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so don't go away because we have more after this. All right, everybody, so back to our theme of Movember. To get more of an idea of what Movember means to you, we sent Pax Brown out onto the streets of London to gather your opinions. Let's see what he found out.
It's November and we are in Shoreditch, the UK's beard capital, arguably. So guess what we're gonna do? That's right, we're gonna interview people about Movember. Are you celebrating Movember this year?
No, I'm not. I always have a beard.
It's a toss-up between raising lots of money and not kissing my missus for a month. Given the choice, I think I'll probably contribute the money and not grow a tash.
Yeah, but it takes me about 6 weeks to start to get bottom fluff, so I'll let it grow and then at the end just cut it off. But yeah, I'm gonna try.
No. I would if I could. Yeah, same. But I obviously can't.
Yeah, I'm not very good at like growing hair.
But I'll support the people that do.
Yeah.
Do you know what Movember stands for? What the cause that Movember stands for?
It's testicular cancer fundraising research for.
Well, one of the charities, I think cancer,
Is it testicular cancer?
It's for prostate cancer?
No.
No, I have no idea. Is it like a cancer? Is it something cancer? Is it prostate cancer? Is that right?
That's right. Do you think moustaches or beard make men more manly?
Yes, absolutely they do, for sure.
No. No hair makes a man more manly.
A bit more poncy sometimes, it depends on the style.
No, I prefer a clean-shaven look, actually, yeah. Super manly,
Yeah.
super manly, yeah.
Of course. If it's like all the way around, then it's better.
No, I think it definitely makes them look more manly.
Depends on the person.
Thanks very much to Pax. Now, in support of Movember, here's a cancer-busting recipe from Hannah Richards, who is making spicy sweet potatoes and beef stir-fry. Enjoy!
Hello and welcome to the MTS Kitchen. My name's Hannah, and today I'm going to show all you beautiful men how to cook quick, easy and delicious recipes so you can benefit from all the health benefits that these foods have. This month is Movember, where we typically see people raising money for all things health related in regards to men. Particularly we see prostate cancer. So today I'm going to start off with some delicious sweet potatoes. They're going to be spicy, reducing all that inflammation in your body, keeping you fit, strong and healthy. So, Just take your sweet potatoes and first of all, you're just going to peel them. When you're choosing your vegetables, just make sure they're the brightest colours possible, because the brighter the vegetable, the higher in antioxidants they are. Now we're going to only parboil these, because then we're going to roast them in the oven as well. So they probably, make sure you put them into a pan that's really boiling, and then boil them just until they're done on the outside for about 10 minutes. Okay, so now we're just going to make the spicy sauce, which makes the potatoes spicy. And I'm just going to use some olive oil, some virgin olive oil. There we go. Put about 5 tablespoons of oil in there. Then I've got a few spices. Paprika, turmeric, flake chilies, and some cayenne pepper. And you can see it's sort of very rough measures. Depends how spicy you like your wedges. So while these sweet potatoes are cooking, we're going to start chopping the vegetables for the beef stir fry. Green beans, onions, and I'm going to add some ginger to this stir fry. I'm going to give it a quick peel. So there's your ginger. I'm going to take a chili. And just watch when you're cutting your chilies that you don't get those seeds. Should just come through and chop them all out. So it's been about 10 minutes. We're going to have a look and see if the potatoes are ready. Perfect. So then just space out the potatoes into the tray there, and then just take your spicy sauce and sprinkle evenly over those wedges. And they're going to go into the oven now, about 180 degrees, for about 25 minutes. We're going to start the stir fry with, remember, our red and our white onion. You can choose whichever one you like, or both. Our ginger, our fresh chili, and our fresh garlic. So I've just bought 2-minute steaks. So these steaks are about 150 grams each. So we're then going to just take maybe 3 spring onions, top and tail them. Our green beans, they're going to go straight into the stir fry now. This guy wants to go in last because he's so thin. The moment he hits heat, he'll be cooked. So you want to make sure you put them in a specific order. So I'm going to put the asparagus in. I'm going to add in a little bit of soy sauce. So the final veg I'm just going to throw in is this pak choy. I'm going to try and chop it as thinly as I can. Time to serve up. Make sure you get lots of that beef on top. And these lovely edible flowers, a little bit of decoration. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of lime on top, just for a bit of zest, really not too much at all. So here's your Movember meal for your beautiful man: beef stir fry and chili potato wedges.
Thank you very much to Hannah. So after the break, we'll be doing a Doctor's Answers with Dr Rob Hicks, so don't go away. Welcome back, everybody, to the Chrissy B Show. So now I have Dr. Rob Hicks back with me, who's here to answer all of your medical questions. So this is the part of the show where you can ask absolutely any medical question you wish. It doesn't have to be related to our topic of Movember today, because we do have a couple of questions from females for you to answer, Rob, today. So do get in touch with us. We won't read out any names, and the email address is info@chrissybshow.tv. You ready, Rob?
Ready to go.
Firing the questions at you. Okay, so this person says, my hamstring is sore after I strained it, but I need to exercise. Is it okay to exercise if you are still sore from an injury, or will I definitely just re-injure myself?
You know, Chris, it's a very, very common question. Somebody who does exercise, they injure themselves. Obviously, they want to get back to exercise as soon as possible, but it's important to be recovered, because otherwise what you risk is re-injuring or actually doing some damage which is then permanent.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is the important thing is that you get your injury medically assessed to know what degree of injury it is, because then you'll be given the guidance on how soon you can go back to exercising, and actually whether you need other treatment like physiotherapy, for example. It might be a case of you just overdid it, and in a couple of days' time the pain is gone and you're moving okay and you can go back. But if you've done a significant injury where maybe it's difficult for you to stand on the leg or to actually bend the leg, or the muscle feels sore, it may be a little while longer before you can go back to exercise. In the meantime, use the RICE technique, which is R for rest, I for ice in the muscle, C for compressing the muscle, and E for elevation. So keep the leg up as much as you can. Painkillers, you know, from the pharmacy will also help. But make sure you get yourself assessed, and really there's a rule of thumb with going back to exercise. Once the pain's gone and you can move without pain, and actually the leg that you've injured feels the same as the uninjured leg, then you're probably fit to go back and exercise again.
I suppose if you have injured like your leg or your knee or something like that, you can still do upper body exercises though, can't you? If you're seated and you're doing...
You can, yes, and you can find other exercises to do. But what you find is the person wants to go back to the exercise that they've been doing that's caused the injury. Okay. So yes, you're right. You can work on other muscles, so long as you're not putting pressure on that injured area, particularly if you've been advised to lay off.
Okay. So another question here: what kind of doctor should I see if I have excessive underarm sweating? I have no known medical conditions, and I'm 22 years old.
Well, to start with, go along and see a GP. They won't be embarrassed about the problem, and neither should you be. And it may be a simple solution. So it might be that they can prescribe a stronger antiperspirant than you might be able to buy at the chemist, or indeed they might, suggest things like armpit absorption pads, which will soak up the sweat without causing you the embarrassment of, let's say, staining the clothes, etc. They can also run some tests to make sure that there aren't any underlying medical conditions. So you might have an overactive thyroid that can cause these problems. They can also advise you on managing the stress and anxiety that may be triggering these symptoms for you. If those steps are not helping enough or at all, then they can refer you to a dermatologist. That's a specialist who deals with this sort of condition, and they can offer you other treatments. It may be iontophoresis, which is minor electric currents to try and stop the sweating. It may be Botox injections, or it may actually be, in severe cases where nothing's working and this problem is destroying a person's life, sometimes we use surgical procedures. So GP first, then if necessary dermatologist.
Right, brilliant. Okay, next question. I had an operation when I was 10 and now I have a scar above and to the right of my belly button. Lately, if I sneeze hard, stand up quickly or stay in a fetal position for too long, I get a strong pain and a hard lump sticks out visibly where the scar is. I have to push it back in and stand up as straight as I can to make the lump go away. Can you tell me what's happening?
What this very much sounds like is something called an incisional hernia. So that's a hernia that occurs at a point where somebody's had an operation, where they've got a wound. So I would urge you to get this checked out as soon as possible, because you're describing that it's painful and it's hard to push back in. One of the problems with hernias is if the contents that are coming through from inside the gut get stuck, the blood supply gets cut off, and that can cause some significant damage. So you need to get this checked out promptly. The problem arises is because of a weakness, essentially, and that's why when you cough, you sneeze, you laugh, maybe you jump about, basically it pops out and you can push it back in. Whilst you can push it back in, it is less of a problem, but you have pain, it's hard, you're having to push it back in, then I would say you need to get this checked out promptly, please.
Okay. Next question. My boyfriend has these funny little things growing on his back, which he says are skin tags. What are they exactly, and are they dangerous in any way?
The first thing to do is get your boyfriend to see his doctor to confirm that these are skin tags. If they are skin tags, then they are perfectly harmless. Nobody is really sure why they develop, but they're just essentially extra bits of skin. And sometimes they can be frozen or burned off, or your doctor may advise your boyfriend that he can do it himself at home by just tying a bit of dental floss or cotton around the bottom of the skin tag. That cuts off the blood supply and it will die and fall off. You've mentioned it's on the back, so you may actually have to help him. He's not going to be able to reach around very easily. The other way of doing it is to use sterile scissors and just snip them and then put a dressing on them. Be aware though, and your doctor will advise you whether it's safe to do it at home or not, if they are large, it's best not to do it at home on your own because they may bleed a lot. But be reassured, skin tags, perfectly innocent. The worst thing that's going to happen is that they rub on clothing and get a little bit sore and irritated.
Never heard of those before, Rob. Thanks for that. Okay. Next question. I have been experiencing chest pain at work, and it's like there is pressure in the middle of my chest. Movement and breathing normally make it painful. I have been feeling nauseous on and off lately and extremely tired. I also take antidepressants. What could this be?
Well, my advice to you would be to get a checkup as soon as possible, because you need to get to the root of this problem. If this pain is related in any way associated with shortness of breath or lightheadedness or feelings of sweating, or you really feel unwell, please dial 999 and call for an ambulance. Nobody is going to be upset if it turns out not to be a heart-related problem, but they'll certainly be relieved for you, and indeed you'll be relieved if it is a heart problem, because it needs to be treated very, very promptly. Not wanting to scare you, it could be a lung problem, it could be indigestion, it could be muscle pain, it could be anxiety or stress related, it could be even a side effect of the medication that you're taking, or maybe you've strained a muscle. But I would urge you to seek some advice straight away.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, time for a couple more, Rob. I'm a 22-year-old woman, but I have pretty bad hemorrhoids. I've tried treating them with over-the-counter medicine, but I'd rather be completely rid of them. What are my options?
Well, there's a number of things you can do for hemorrhoids, which we commonly call piles. What you can start to do is make sure that you're eating a high fibre diet, you're drinking lots of liquid, and when Mother Nature tells you need to go to the toilet to open your bowels, that you go along, because hemorrhoids generally come from constipation and straining on the toilet. They're actually very common in pregnancy because of the hormone changes, but the majority of people who get hemorrhoids is because they're straining on the toilet, and you get these hemorrhoids, which are like essentially varicose veins around the back passage. You've tried the over-the-counter treatments, so why don't you have a word with your doctor to confirm A, that they're hemorrhoids, and also to see if there are other treatments that are available. When the creams and the ointments and the suppositories and the lifestyle changes are not enough, then they can be treated with minor surgical procedures. So they could be banded, that's like putting a rubber band around the base of them, basically to obstruct the blood supply so that they die. They can be injected, again, to kill them off, or you can have more major surgery to actually remove them permanently. But most times, if you adapt your lifestyle and use some of the over-the-counter treatments, they will disappear, and more times than not, they won't come back again.
Okay, so time for one last question, Rob. This person says, sometimes I hear my pulse loudly in my ear. Why is this?
That's a really good question. We don't often come across that sort of symptom. I guess it's because sometimes people may have that problem and just put up with it. It could be perfectly normal, but it could be something called pulsatile tinnitus, which is basically the pulse, and you're hearing it on the inside of the ear. You may know about tinnitus, that when people hear sounds in their ears that they can't hear outside, ringing, buzzing, that sort of sound. Get yourself checked out to find out what's at the root cause. It could be related to anemia, it could be related to a thyroid problem, it could be because of fluid that's collected in the middle ear, it could be because of narrowed arteries, or if you're taking medication, it might be related to the side effects. But again, get yourself checked out to make sure that there isn't an underlying cause that needs some treatment, and then you can get it sorted out.
This question is quite interesting because this used to happen to me as a child. I remember trying to go to sleep, not all the time, but it was really loud. It sounded like a drum in my ear.
Sometimes
and it was quite,
you can hear
scary at
sometimes
the time.
it's external sounds. So you might be aware of your heart beating,
Yeah.
and therefore you not just feel it but you hear it. But people with this condition, they actually feel the pulse inside the ear, and you know, it may be at times where it's quiet, or it may be just there all the time. But the important thing with anything where you don't know what's causing it,
make sure you get it
is
checked
get it checked out.
Yeah, and that's with all the viewers that have written in today, and anyone watching, if you do have a question, you should always go to your doctor.
Yes.
Anyway, so, but great advice. Thank you so much,
You're
Rob.
welcome.
And we'll see you again next week for some more Doctor's
Some
Answers.
more Doctor's Answers.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we have reached the end of today's programme, but don't forget, if you have a story that you would like to share, or you have a suggestion for a topic on this programme, do get in touch with us via the website, chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Till next time, bye-bye for now.
I've had a great day on the show today. It's been brilliant talking to Chrissy, someone who's had mental health problems herself, and I've been able to share my story with her. And hopefully you, the audience, have found some inspiration and hope in the message today.
So thanks very much to Pax. So now here's a cancer balloon, sorry. So thank you very much to Pax. Now what's the word I'm looking for? After the break, we'll be doing a Doctor's Answers with Dr. Rob Hicks. And remember, this is the place in the show where you can, here we go. Don't forget that this is the part of the show where you can ask absolutely any medical question you may have, and you will get the answer from I'm rambling.
We've no idea why some people develop what happens when there's pressure within the abdomen, whether that's from sneezing. Oh, sneezing!
So we have reached the end of today's. By 2000. What is that?